What is up, you savages? This is the Protect Your Neck podcast, and I'm your host, Dan Tom. Analyst is work you can find over at MMA Junkie as well as oddscheckerus.com. But in this here program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here today tonight whenever you're listening to this. Hopefully it's before the fight. Recording this just a couple hours after weigh-in time here on West Coast Pacific time specifically, though UFC 270, the card in question, Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane. We're breaking that down from top to bottom. Of course, check the timestamps. But, of course, that's going on next door. Not here in Vegas. Next door, Anaheim, California. Yeah, maybe it's better we did a little bit of a later breakdown instead of Thursday, Friday again because of the COVID era, especially here in the United States. Where we still have issues with vaccinations and masks. It's like a crazy concept still. Keep yourself protected. Protect yourself at all times, folks. We're going to break it down the card, check the timestamps. Top to bottom, as per usual, for UFC 270. Of course, we're going to just do a quick top to bottom recap of last week, the first fight week of 2022. If you're Brandon Royval, shouts to him. I need it. Let me get some coffee and some fluids, actually, more so. And some water. Oi. Oy vey. All right, let's go, folks. Let's. I don't want to promise anything crazy, but hey, let's try to get this as fast as we can. Last week we did good on picks and analysis. I will say those were good. 8-2. I should have got I should have just had the balls to pick Calvin Kattar. I didn't, but at the very least, you guys could read between the lines and my hatred for Chikadze's style, not the man, but his style. Although he continues, as I said, he doesn't seem like the most likable guy, despite his charity, which is awesome, and still not talked about by him either. So whatever there, but I at least did tell you guys, keep your money away. Do not bet on Chikadze. You shouldn't be laying that chalk, and you should have been smart enough anyways for that. That was just silliness. But I can't talk too much shit because I picked him. And even though a lot of people picked him, I should have had the balls to pick Kattar because, shouts to the MMA Analysis podcast. I know they were on him. And shouts to Luca Fury as well. His breakdown pretty much nailed the fight. Now, I wasn't as confident that Kattar was going to go forward because that's kind of been his problem, his directionality. So it wasn't that, the analysis wasn't wrong there. But, again, in a pinch, sometimes you just got to pick that experienced guy to do what's right. They don't always do that. But in that matchup that's asking for it, a guy that I said myself was going to get taxed, I'm just kind of slapping myself for not making my money back on losing on money on Chikadze on the last 2 times. Those are the only 2 times I bet against him. Was Cub, who, again, still showed that his game's still intact. Fuck me, right? And, of course, Barbosa, who, again, if he doesn't get hit with that one flurry, I think pretty much home free. I saw, Giga saying he's the best boxer and all that stuff before the fight. I'm like, oh, this guy's asking for it. And I wanted to bet against him right there. I was going to wait for a live opportunity like I stated in my written and podcast, but that never came. Again, that was one thing I was wrong about because the directionality, I figured at the very least Kattar had to be kind of smacked into that directionality. And no, him and his team knew what was up. And shouts to Tyson Chartier. And regardless of result, we'll talk about Eric Nixick soon. I love these guys, man. It wasn't just me going with a contrarian pick last year for Coach of the Year by both giving them co-coach awards. I feel like they quietly earned it and have since quietly proved their supporters right. So hopefully you were supporting them at plus money. I didn't officially, and I didn't have the opportunity to jump in, so I can't bump my chest. I'm going to slap myself instead. Even if the analysis, was defensible, and I still told you at the end of the day, the value's on Kattar. It was. Congrats to them. I should have had the balls, and that's going to be something that I do kind of from now on, and we'll get to that. That doesn't mean I got to be stupid and place money every time or place a lot of money or tell you to place money, measure yourself accordingly, and we will. As far as these picks, though, if it's that close enough, then fucking take the dog or fucking take the more experienced guy. Take the pick that's you're gonna be able to sleep better at night, regardless if you bet it or not, right? And that's not all the time because again, your biases can really fuck that equation up. But you get what I'm saying. Jake Collier defeated Chase Sherman. We missed the prop there. Round 3 sprinkle. Man, we've been missing round sprinkles like crazy. I really got to come credit. And what the annoying part is, and I know this is the same tune, it's all the analysis, but I'm getting close to hitting these motherfuckers. Not this one though. Not this one. So I gotta come clean there, because in my defense, most people didn't see Collier taking to the ground, ended it that early, I guess. I think it was round 1. We all thought it was going to be Chase Sherman. But unfortunately, what I thought about Chase was right. It's not a great place. And Collier, the more well-rounded fighter. I should have laid the money line. It got juiced. A lot of these things, like the Chukagian decision and Collier, I'm like, too rich for my blood at minus 120 or minus 130, minus 140. And then it gets juiced past, minus 150, and I don't want to bet anymore. And it hits as and especially with these, lax or last minute offerings and undependable sample sizes we find ourselves betting on. It's like, why don't you just, if it's a confident angle, just take the fucking juice, if it's playable juice, right? I mean, it's still under minus 170, for poor man's playable juice. Anyways, good on Collier. Brandon Royval defeated Rogerio Bontorin by decision. Man, that was a split decision. I don't disagree with the decision. Probably should have got that sub. I'm not the guy that goes, he tapped. But even in the replays, like it did look like a tap to me that he got away with one. That he went to tap and saw that he kind of get away with it, kind of a thing, like a change mid-course. But I'm also biased because I bet Royval round 3, right? So it's hard for me to make that case. I will say I rarely say that, and I do think that. I'm not going to sit here and get upset about it. But I will say, again, with Royval, it always almost hits because he's always almost going for the finish. But even though it didn't hit the rounds 2 and 3, I don't really regret those sprinkles. They were small. And, again, they almost hit. Chukagian defeated Death and Taxes, and Chukagian by decision defeats Jennifer Mayan by unanimous decision. Again, I should have laid that. Vyacheslav Borishev defeated Dakota Bush. My analysis here was right, but of course, the one prop in a fight card full of overs, the one over your boy lays misses. Hopefully, I don't overcorrect the steering wheel. We'll get to that this week, but that was really annoying. So I apologize for that. But my analysis was right. Again, it was Dakota Bush was going to have a lot of success early. Maybe even a 10-8, and if he would have survived the round and not given things away, maybe he would have, right? Because he had Borishev rocked, it looked live. But Borishev, like I said, he's able to get up without getting his back taken and come back into fights. He's got devastating counters. And even though I do stand by Bush having a durable chin, the liver cares not about your chin, folks. The liver will take the most strongest of men down, which is why I love it so much. Borishev gets him out of there early. Bill Algio defeats Joe Anderson Brito. This again, the analysis goes as planned. Interesting round though. It was a really interesting round. You could have, I don't know if it was round 2 people were arguing for Brito, but I think you could have quietly flipped it and argued the other way around. Because Brito, I think he might have arguably landed the biggest shot, depending on how you read Algio or not. Because he's so confident, it's hard to tell if he's really okay, if he's overcompensating. Obviously, he was okay, but it looked like Brito landed some big shots. He just would crowd his work, of course. I still stand by that. He's going to get check hook knocked out, but he gets knocked off by Bill Algio, who cashes. I should have laid that dog. I was already picking the dog. Why not lay him, right? So again, the analysis and the picks can be good, but it's how you play it. These are all three different things, right, folks? Great example of it here. Jamie Pickett defeated Joseph Holmes, one of the 2 picks I got wrong, and maybe I would have got this right if I probably should have picked blind Pickett. I just saw the odds and got scared away, and Pickett's not really a backable fighter, so I was like, well, fuck it. I don't really care. I'm not going to play this fight anyways. I don't care to look into it. I'll just pick the favorite and move on. I paid for it. Probably, again, if I would have done the research on that and then listened to my hat in the main event, Maybe this could have been easily a perfect card because everything else went as planned. Brian Kelleher, like I told you, real dangerous trying to find an angle because he's got that wrestling in his back pocket, and that is what he needed. Like I told you guys, even Kevin Crew ran out of gas, even with a full camp, and got out wrestled even with a full camp via Alex Caceres, who was a former bantamweight, albeit bigger than Kelleher, obviously himself. But yeah, Kelleher's wrestling good enough. Like I said, T.J. Brown defeated Charles Rosa. His wrestling was good enough as well via unanimous decision. Rosa had his moments to win, but he just kept giving up position. Would have been frustrated if I bet Rosa, and I've been there many a time, so I'm not coming from my high horse on you if you did hear on that one. All right, that was that card. How do we do on time? 11:36, not bad. All right, UFC 270. Headlined by 2 title fights, of course. At the top is a heavyweight affair. Cyril Gane minus 145, the interim champ. Incumbent champ, despite opening as a slight favorite, has been pushed to underdog. It's plus 125. Wow, that's pretty high. I may have to force my hand there. I'm picking on Ngannou here. Of course, my in-depth breakdown, which I put a lot of work into. It's hard to get through the work. He sounded good in the breakdown video. I appreciate that. But like it comes in days and waves with this COVID stuff. It is real, not like any flu or any cold I've had. That's for damn sure. Still not smelling, which is probably a good thing due to my dog's gas. Shouts Benjamin. Who is doing better? I was really frustrated at the beginning of this week. Because he was having some stomach issues, but he seems to be pulling through. So thank you guys for that. He is the light of my life, and I feel so vulnerable. But just like my love for dogs, I like the dog here in Francis Ngannou, and got to state my bias as well, because I got love for his team. Not as much as I love my Benjamin here. Sorry, Eric Nixick, but just kidding. Eric Nixick is pretty damn close to family to me. I somehow haven't had him on this podcast yet, and I'm always reminded whenever like Ngannou fights, everybody wants his ear, and all the journalists are getting him on and whatnot, and I'm just like, I'm actually like, tight with this dude, and I don't even like pull that journalist card, which is why I'm a bad journalist and a bad businessman, and I'm not a journalist anyways, a bad media person, I should say, because most media people are like just selling their soul, for connections and stuff. And meanwhile, me, the few connections I actually do have and insides I have, I'm like, I want to respect their space. That being said, I did actually talk strategy ahead of this fight with Coach Eric Nixick. And I don't speak out of school with that. I would never. So I'm not going to here. Which is another reason why I don't exercise these things, because it's not like I'm going to go fucking, so guys, just so I can go talk about it on my podcast, like betray some of the few people that I actually love and have been good to me in this space. Like, why the fuck would I do that? No. But I will say, even though wouldn't won't ever divulge private conversation, I will say I like their game plan, and it was essentially not too really far offline from what I thought would be the best way to fight Gane, which I lay out in my breakdown. So go read the breakdown and listen here. Does that mean he's gonna win? Of course not. It's MMA. It's heavyweight MMA, folks. So bet accordingly, which means if you're gonna bet small and keep it fun, because it's bad for your health betting MMA. Well, that too, but the heavyweight MMA, I should say, long term especially. It's a very volatile game. But there are certain shots. My original read still holds true, which is pressure and measured pressure is good against a guy like Gane, because his defense tends to fall apart to the fence. He kind of has some JDS tendencies, right? His angles get taken away. Now he's relying just on head movement. And you really look at what Francis Ngannou has been working on. And what he showed in that Stipe Miocic fight is kind of the blueprint for how I think you should fight a guy like Gane. Smart pressure, small steps, pivots, leg kicks, body work, smart shifting combinations when you do blitz, counter wrestling the clinches, right? Which is the double-edged sword there. Why I kind of posted that clinch thing. Also, there was limited clinch footage, as you know. Sometimes I have to publish my own gifs before I publish them in the breakdown articles, right? So people were kind of confused on that. Some people were in awe. Some people were like, he's going to get knocked out. My message was that he's going to get counter wrestled because you see Gon throw the flying knee that misses, and he allows Derek Lewis, of all people, to get double unders. Of course, Derek Lewis could not complete the takedown, and Gon's takedown defense was good enough to defend. But against Ngannou, I don't think so. And as we saw with the Stipe thing, he doesn't need the full takedown and control time. Because when he got the takedown, what did he smartly do? He keeps his chest over Stipe and then wings hooks under the armpits, striking in those in-between spaces that he's done with JDS, other former champions in past fights. Just a more refined version of it, again, under the Extreme Couture Collective with Eric Nixick, Dewey Cooper, and the rest. So I really like those things. You know, he's kind of already showed the things I would want to see against a fighter like Gon. But more importantly, one thing I really did see, speaking of JDS, you go to the end of his first fight. And I talk about this. There's things I talk about in the video breakdowns that I don't write about, so it's always good to watch those. And it's always, of course, the best to go to this podcast. But there's things that I miss in each arena. So again, it doesn't hurt to kind of touch all my bases. They're so warm. The phrasing, but you know what I'm saying. Keep it clean, folks. But at the end of that first round of JDS Gon, JDS hits him with a check hook right hand follow up return that it doesn't hit him clean, but it sends Gon flying back to the fence, right? And then you just go look at that, and then look at the check hook of. Ngannou's always wanted to throw some version of a check hook. He's kind of had in the past. He always kind of throws the more wider JDS ones, and JDS threw a sloppy version of his own one that caught Gon. But now he's kind of has that tight hook, and credit to Daniel Cormier, does a great in-depth breakdown on it. I tweeted a clip of that in conjunction because it fit exactly what I was saying already in my breakdown summary as far as some of the refinements that you start to see, where Ngannou goes from always having that underrated left hand under Fernand Lopez, who is obviously the coach of Gon. They come from the same camp. Ngannou no longer with them. To now what it is an educated left hand. You hear Rogan use that term and abuse that term a lot. I feel like it applies here. Much more educated with the way he throws his left hooks now, the short left hook especially. I mean, look at him. He doesn't need a lot of power, so he should be throwing these things technically more clean. He'll find a lot more knockouts that way than he already inherently will naturally, being who he is. And you put that up against what he does to Stipe, to what Cyril gets hit with at the end of the first round against JDS. And even just watching other fights and stuff, Bozer's fights against Bozer and other fights, which, by the way, Bozer gives him a deceptively tough fight because Bozer, even though he's not as big as Ngannou, he's got the speed and mobility, which, you know, people focus on Ngannou's power first, then maybe they start to focus on his speed, the more keen eye. It's his intelligence and putting things together is where kind of I'm at. I've been really focusing on this one because he's shown that he can accept it, listening to him talk. There's some deceptive things there. I know he can seem very rigid in many arenas in the way he talks. English is his second language, so you got to really read between the lines. But there is some real, some intelligence there as far as this man is focused on the objective, as rigid as it may seem at times. And yeah, I just feel like that left hook's always kind of gonna be there, and then he's gonna have, of course, his steady objective of working the body, legs, and getting Gon to the fence. Its frustration is going to be the key. If Ngannou, if he loses rounds early, that actually doesn't bother me as much. I think that maybe he can win earlier, even though I'm picking him by second round. I feel like he can win later, and make effective choices throughout the fight more than given credit for. That being said, I am picking him by second round. I think the more the key is not so much the timing, although later does favor Gon on paper. I'm not denying that. I just think frustration is the key. Once you start seeing Ngannou frustrated, that's going to be the big key for him getting beaten here. Other than that, I think he knocks him out in round two. If you do like Gon, I don't suggest you pay chalk for him. I feel like you could get a plus number with the over angle 2.5. Hard to find that plus number now, but you can find something near even, pretty much even money, which is a discounted price tag at the very least. And I believe Gon opened at even minus 105. Did he not? No, he didn't. He opened at plus 165. Jesus, he really flipped. Hard to justify a bet, but again, Ngannou can do better later than given, and obviously later rounds is Gon's home. So over 2.5 is a decent angle if you like the Gon side. However, I don't, and it's heavyweight MMA, so I'm probably just going to sprinkle in Ngannou depending on where this line goes and how I do. I actually, despite what the fights got taken off, so unless something gets taken off between now and fight day, knock on wood, this will be one of the more up-to-date breakdowns on the market you can listen to. So thank you guys for listening. Next fight, this morning my in-depth MMA Junkie dropped on that, so I really suggest you check that out, where I recap the fights, give adjustments, and so forth. But yeah, Brandon Moreno defending his title minus 180, Davison Figueiredo plus 155. Oh, nice to get up. Oh, sorry. I love Figueiredo, but he's just definitely one of those fighters that, like Giga, he gets all the hype. So of course, I gotta give love to Moreno, who's just fucking one of the few wholesome fighters out there. That being said, that's not the reason why I picked Moreno here. Essentially, I think he's the more consistent fighter, first and foremost, where you can kind of hang your hat on if you're gonna make an argument for this fight, let alone Moreno. But he also is the better adjuster as fights go along. They're both 1-1 in rematches, even though I don't know what you want to consider this fight, because it's I don't know if you consider a rubber match of sorts since it was a draw, although I think that Figueiredo should have won regardless of point deduction, 48-46 with it, 4 rounds to 1. He landed the more damaging shots. Yeah, we saw that, I don't know if he said it was a weight cut, but it clearly just seemed to be, not the same. And I hate to take away from Moreno, and I'm picking Moreno, so I'm clearly not taking away from him, but, it clearly, Figueiredo's I think he lands 55, they both land 55 shots officially, significant strikes, in the first fight, round one in the second fight. Moreno answers that call again with 54 out of whatever. I think Figueiredo's 13 or some shit. But if you look at it, it's not even that he's missing. He's barely throwing. And it's not even that he's barely throwing. He's on the back foot and just content. He's not even pushing like he normally does. He gets dropped, and he gets dropped in that round. Tries to go to wrestling after getting hit and stung by another jab, even though he doesn't get dropped in the second round. That eventually gets turned on him despite his best efforts to control via a cradle. As Moreno goes on to control and win the rest of that round. And then kind of wash, rinses, and repeats. Sees that he can take him down, which I think he can anyways. It's going to have to be more well-timed doubles if Moreno wants to. But I feel like the wrestling is more on even play, whereas before I gave wrestling a slight edge to Figueiredo. And even if Figueiredo, with working with Henry Cejudo, can reclaim that slight edge in wrestling that me and many perhaps give him, I feel like wrestling will be diminishing returns. I don't want to say in shape, because some of his most in shape, it's kind of like Bontarine. It's like when he makes the weight is when he has some of his suspect performances, when he barely makes the weight, cheats the scale, misses weight even, is when he wins and has better performances, you could say. Although that's not true either, because he had a tough weight cut in Brazil and probably should have lost to, Jared Brooks of all people, right? When he kept jumping guillotines and just getting wrestled. And then there's other fights where he's found the finish, against Alex Perez and stuff, where he's just made really suspect moves and he's lauded for him. When other fighters, which it was shown, I argue Moreno, make him pay as soon as they get past. As soon as you can get past his frames, he's really strong. And he's got good butterflies and frames, as we saw in the first fight, Figueiredo. But once you get past those, you really make him work. He will take position, and it'll take a lot for him to get out. He'll have bursts, but you can win those rounds, or at least should win those rounds in Jared Brooks' case. So that's my aspect on the wrestling. And then as far as exchanges go, Figueiredo, he's the more devastating counter fighter, but it's more 1-2 layers of counters. Whereas layered through exchanges and extended exchanges, I feel like Moreno can come out better. And so that's going to be good for him. And Moreno, he's still going to be susceptible to bad rounds early, even though I like that he made some things like, Davison came out and kicked his leg early and countered him hard, right? That's what he kind of used was hard kicks and counters in the first fight. But even in the first fight, he gets away from the teep kicks to the body, which he should go back to, as well as the calf kicks to the leg, which obviously he should go back to. Moreno clearly takes the kicking initiative away from him in the second fight. I'll be really curious to see who takes the kicking initiative in the first, because I think it's going to be there for both guys. But even if Figueiredo comes out on point, aggressive, counters on point, Moreno still is just durable as hell, and he's shown he can come back from tough rounds. Like, even that 10-8 round where he almost gets finished against Pantoja in the rematch, he comes back pretty strong in that second round. It's insane, like, how well he can recomport himself between rounds, Moreno. And I think that's going to be huge. And I think basically Figueiredo's going to have to walk a fine line again, kind of like the first fight, and land the more damaging shots and hope the judges are giving credit for him. There will be a crowd to react, but that crowd is going to be a primarily Los Angeles pro Latinx crowd, Latino crowd, right? For Brandon Moreno. Especially this part of Mexico is actually not even that far from Southern California. So I'm sure he's going to have a lot of family and stuff in the audience. So you're going to have a pro Moreno crowd, which is going to help him and help the judges hopefully see his counters and exchanges. But if Figueiredo doesn't do enough damage long term, that fight lasting damage like he did in that first fight, with all the hematomas, cuts, and fouls, right? Let's be honest. Like, he had to do all that. And with those fouls came breaks, right? Where if you look back, like, those fouls came at really important parts of the fight where Figueiredo was able to get second wins, I feel like, in other words, the planet really had to align. And I know he still got a draw and he should have won the fight, so it's not even like the gods graced him, but with that kind of performance, that's still the performance that he needs to win, regardless of how it shook out. And I feel like the planets really aligned in that sense. Speculatively, but lastly but not leastly, and perhaps more importantly, the weight cut. You were like, well, he made weight on short notice, And that's the thing, I know a real common thing is, fight ready changes lives, fight ready, and, science, and none of us can really say why. And, let's be honest, it's probably some air quote science going on for sure there. And it's fine, it's cool, it's whatever, they're doing a good job. But at the same time, like, Figueiredo, do we not forget, like, Figueiredo, like, was touting that he was in the shape of his life and, like, was shredded and cut looking in the second one. And it's these weight cuts, man. They've made he's had inconsistent performances. And if you actually break it down, the fights where he looks bad, he loses the decision to, I know he says he has injury and some other things with Formiga, and Formiga is a G, is an old school G. His time has passed, but, gotta give him credit. But if you look at that fight and then you look at this last fight, the common thread is that outside of his last regional fight to his first fight with Marco Beltran, which you can still kind of maybe count as regional, no offense to Marco Beltran. If you look at it, anytime, at least in the UFC against meaningful competition, there's only twice where he has fought at the 6-month marker over, and that was against Formiga, he loses, and that was against the second time against Moreno, he loses. In other words, is that you could argue two things: that his body is going to be performing much better and make weight much easier when it's used to it. Because, again, there's a reason why people like myself have been calling for a fantasy fight at bantamweight between him and Figueiredo and Peter Yan since 2018 now, almost 4 years now, folks, is because the guy has been long for bantamweight. He's not long for this division. And I really believe that. And I know Moreno is bigger, looks bigger in certain senses and measures bigger, but that's not how these things work. I mean, Figueiredo is just really stripping himself down to the bone and muscle. And I don't like that. Everybody's like, oh, fight right. But he's like, oh, how good a shape he is. Like, he's shredded. Like, dude, he's always shredded. Like, why are we so, like, he can win this fight, and I stand by this, and I still think it's fucking stupid. Figueiredo can win and cash all your bets, but him fucking looking shredded means fucking nothing. He always looks shredded. He can win, but this statement is fucking true. He always looks shredded. Well, and then he's draining himself even more. You know, and people's gonna be like, oh, he made weight. Oh, your prediction said it depended on the weight cut, and you picked Moreno inside the distance. Spoiler alert. I was gonna pick him by decision, but between him being in the sauna as early as Tuesday night and bragging about it, looking sucked out in the sauna, I'm not a weight cutting expert, folks, but can any method tell you that saunaing on a Tuesday night, especially in a division like flyweight, where you're already cutting a large percentage of your body weight, one of the hardest weight cuts in the book, because it's so hard to maintain that level, especially as you get older, 34 even. Coincidence, last 4 years have been his hardest cuts. It's like that window of that Moreno fight, that keeping him in Vegas, it's like, I think that was his last window. Like, oh, but damn, but he made the weight. Like, making the weight's one thing, man. Like, that was probably the focus of his camp. How much is left for his fight, He sounded just out of it as he was trying to force beef. And by the way, ever since Rousey, Holm, and all these other things, like, when they force beef like that, like, it's always a bad sign. Yeah, man. So it's like, and he's working on wrestling and weight cutting, like, so he's gonna go out there and wrestle Moreno and tire himself out. And Moreno's a guy who can sub you from the back too. Like, that's how he made his career, of opportunities to subs off his back. Like, okay. I feel like I was looking to play overs here. But even though over like 3.5 is probably still safe, but I think it's gonna be a finish within that round, like rounds 4 or 5. If not decision for Moreno, who pulls away late. So I'll still be rooting for over bettors. I still think over is in play, but I ended up picking Moreno by finish, and I changed it by decision after seeing the press conference. Now again, I know Figueiredo jumped up and looked great on the scales and but it's just like, who knows? What's going to be left? A lot can happen in the rehydration that can go wrong. Be interesting to see the weight since they're in California. But yeah, man, having to suck yourself out from that early and drying yourself out that early, like, I don't know, man. I'm going to go with the more consistent fighter, the better adjuster, Brandon Moreno. I don't like the price. For the price, I get the price tag while you're betting Davis and Figueiredo. I wouldn't bet. I was hoping this price was going to go down. Like, if it goes down to minus 150 or under, I may take a shot on Moreno, because it's hard to find an angle. It's like, do you sprinkle an over submission, or you combo over and decision, But again, Figueiredo's live, so it's maybe I just sit back and enjoy that. I was maybe going to look to parlay, especially if Figueiredo looked garbage on the scales, but I'm not saying it doesn't mean nothing, because obviously with that statement I just said, clearly I'm respecting how he looked on the scales, but it also, I will say, I'll talk on the other side of my mouth too. Which I don't really feel like it is that, it also doesn't matter. We've seen it a bunch of times with other fighters in general, not just Figueiredo, It's just hard to bet on a guy. Like, you don't know how he's going to look. I just think he's due for 135, and that's more my fate here. All right, next fight, Michel Pereira, minus 280, Andre Fiallo, plus 225. Basically, this is dog or pass. I was really close to pulling the trigger on Andre Fiallo. Maybe it's because he's an awkward-looking bald dude as well, like Dusko Todorovic, who knocked Michel Pereira out 4 years ago. And if you go every 4 years thing, Michel Pereira, that's only when he gets finished, is every 4 years. He's due to get finished again. Little tinfoil hat there, but I feel like, he doesn't like boxing range. That's the range Fiallo's going to fight for. But with the big cage, I think Michel Pereira is going to have plenty of room to A, dance around, and B, hit his level-changing takedowns. The guy's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, as well as wrestling accolades, wrestling awards regionally in Brazil. Whereas Fiallo trains with a lot of good wrestlers when he's done his camps at Henry Hoof. I can't tell how recently he's done one there. So he's going to have a lot of those looks, and his wrestling has gotten better. Like, he's really technical. He'll go for the Dagestani handcuff, the cross wrist ride, punch, offensively and defensively, like he knows what to do. He just doesn't have the he's got heavy hands, Fialho does, but he just doesn't have the explosiveness as far as that athleticism goes, offensively or defensively, which is why even when it looks like he's got that third round momentum marching a guy down, which is what he should be doing, maybe he could recreate and do more of what Nico Price had success of and should have been doing more of himself in that third round. But I forget what fight it was. Again, the PFL. Not even like Chris Curtis lit him up, but even the fight like he won or whatever. Like, he was just getting taken down really easily. Oh yeah, Glyco Franca. Maybe he didn't win that one, but there was an argument for damage. But yeah, like Franca's big, granted, but like, he was dead tired and was just was getting takedowns that I wasn't sure he should have gotten. Which makes me think Vejeda can. Vejeda seems like he's due for a finish, and Fialho is do or die. He seems like he really takes some hard hitters and the right combination of things to stop him in his defense. And I don't think he's been subbed. I'll check that now. But it doesn't really matter because I'm actually going to pick Vejeda by decision. I think you get a decent number on that. Maybe I'll sprinkle on it. I'm not sure. But I think Vejeda, he doesn't need another decision, but I think that's kind of the fighter he's been evolving into. And, he's never been subbed. He's been knocked out twice, and I saw both. Those took a lot to get him out of there. So, I'm honestly going to go by Vejeda by decision. Curious what the number you can get on that is. Pull it up right now. Vejeda wins inside plus 110. Vejeda wins by decision plus 200. Yeah, I may sprinkle on that. Who knows? Because otherwise I was going to stay away. It is a dog or pass. Otherwise, I don't think the line should be that wide. I get why it is. I still think that Fialho is a little bit of a live dog, but not live enough for me to take him or pick him. Next fight is Said Nurmagomedov, 195. Cody Stamann, plus 165. This was tough. I went back and forth. I had to sleep on this one, and I woke up this morning, and I went with Cody Stamann. I wanted to go with him anyways. I don't know if it means anything that Said Nurmagomedov, that outside the heavyweights, was the last guy to the scale. I know he used to fight at 125, so by that logic, he shouldn't have trouble making 135, but the dude's big, man. He was just a string bean kid was why he was making 125. Like, you just look at his shoulders, like, he'll easily be finishing his career at 145. So, a hard weight cut's not past it. It doesn't look like as big of a problem like his comrade Zabit as far as gassing in the third round, but his style naturally he will slow down, especially if he wrestles as much as Stamann makes him wrestle. And Stamann, this is going to ultimately be a close fight, and I feel like if you're picking or playing Stamann here, we're setting ourselves up for a split decision heartbreak, pretty much, is what I read on this one, but I'm still going to pick and even sprinkle on Stamann anyways, just a half unit. Because even though he does have that neutralizing and countering that the judges I love and the judges don't, he does wrestle much more than what my memory led on. And was more successful against really good guys than what I realized. We just haven't seen him against these tall types before. He was actually doing pretty good against Algio, but Algio actually hits him with a different style of those kick same side check counters, but and I'm not trying to make too much of the sloppy one that Said Nurmagomedov put Mark Striegel out with. But he does throw shots that, even if he's not meant to check, can check his opponents on the way in. And I see those kind of tagging up Stamann early. But if he can keep his composure, I think he's durable enough. I mean, he seems like he's durable enough to stay in there. And as far as the kicks go, if we forget, Stamann used to throw a lot of kicks himself too, especially in his regional career, because he came up training with Darren Cruikshank. So he both had that look coming at him and has shown that he can implement that look himself, which tells me that I'm guessing he's pretty decent at re-engineering something. You're good at doing something, you're pretty decent at defending it generally. Striking, it can be much more willy-nilly than submissions, of course. But as far as his general spins and stuff, it's not going to be something that he's not used to seeing. I like where Staman's at for this fight. I know he said that in his last one against Merab, complete different style matchup as far as being in shape early and having that pre-camp. But I like that. I like that he doesn't have to worry about the weight cut. He can focus on fighting. And basically, I just think it's going to be a close fight that I think he can wrestle and get to enough positions, which is what Barcelos did. Obviously, he doesn't have the jiu-jitsu acumen and the head and arm catches and that kind of a style, which I believe was kind of needed against Saeed, because Saeed will explode to get up and give certain things like his back, which I could see actually paying off against a guy like Staman if Staman just rides him like a wrestler. But I know Staman has really made some advancements in his ground game, working down here in Vegas, 10th Planet, with Casey Halstead, who's more of a top game. He's not like your typical 10th Planet guy. They've got a lot of pros in that room as well, so it's a much more MMA-centric room. Also working with guys like Joseph Benavidez, who's been in his corner, who I believe will be in his corner. So yeah, I really like. Could see him. He's really strong from the front headlock. I don't know if he could catch a guillotine, which would be sweet, but I do think that he can reverse from front headlock, which we've seen people reverse Saeed from front headlock. He's got decent wrestling and sensibilities, but it's kind of the same thing, and he will give his head heavy, again, which is could be bad against a better wrestler, especially one who's good from front headlock position. So it's going to be a sweat, but if it's going to be close, you know what? I'm going to go with the dog, and if I'm going to go with the dog, I might as well sprinkle on him, right? It's not super confident, but this could be one where Stamen wins and the judges take it from us. That's what I feel like it's honestly set up for, but I'm fucking walking in anyways. Hero status, we'll see. Adolfo Vieira no longer fighting. That fight's off. Same with Tapuria and fucking Charles Jourdain. Anthony Barcelos, minus 510. Victor Henry, plus 375. First leg of the parlay, taking Barcelos. I broke this down before, and I couldn't remember it, so I had to go back and watch some Victor Henry. I'm like, oh yeah, Victor Henry is really tough on the ground. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, of course, as well as has the catch wrestling background under Josh Barnett. But his wrestling itself, not so great, and that's going to be the biggest advantage here. Barcelos, I believe, is also the better striker. But Henry is a bit crafty, can be frustrating. I could see him checking Barcelos, using some length early, hitting him with some checking shots. But Barcelos will, be hitting leg kicks, adjusting, and then probably looking for the takedown. Henry will make it competitive, but he doesn't have the knockout power or the consistent stoppages. Like when he stops dudes, it's like older Japanese dudes or outmatched fighters, like TKO stoppages. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see him getting the upset knockout. I don't see him submitting Barcelos. Although I see him making it competitive and being able to survive on the ground. For that reason, I think it's going to be another Barcelos decision, which is like all the way up at plus 200, which isn't like super high, but comparatively to him inside the distance, which is near even, it seems like they think that he's going to get a finish here. And I think that's just the typical people going, oh, he's minus 500. That means he's going to finish, right? Which is the biggest fucking mistake in the book, folks. Says the guy parlaying the big number guy, which is already kind of a big mistake, but not as big as just assuming they're a big number means they're going to fucking win inside the distance. No. That being said, looking for angles is not bad. You just got to use your head with it. That being said, watch, he's going to get a finish now, right? He's going to fucking submit him and neck crank him and like force a tap. But that being said, I think it's going to be a decision. Give me plus 200. I sprinkled a quarter unit on there. That way, if this parlay crumbles and Barcelos comes through decision, hey, at least like we made at least half of it back, right? So there's that. Next fight, Michael Morales, which is that the Spider-Man that I don't know. There's so many Spider-Man iterations now. Minus 115. Trevin Giles minus 105. I ended up taking Jake Giles, but everyone hunting that dog money for the more experienced guy. I get that. He's the more dangerous puncher as far as knockout power. And he, I don't even think Michael Morales is ranked. If anything, it's like a blue belt, if anything. But Jay Giles, of course, is a brown belt. So he's going to be the better submission fighter. I think he can win out the scrambles. But Morales is probably going to be the better wrestler. in that sense, So scrambles will have to definitely work for and be more jiu-jitsu savvy scrambles to win them. Because from judo to like Greco style, it looks like wrestling. It seems to be like what Morales can really likes to do. Get to that body lock, some upper body stuff. He really likes, and not overhyping him. I didn't give him a high grade, but He did remind me of a raw amalgamation of a young John Jones and Kevin Holland, with his body type. Again, not like in a hype way. Don't get excited when I say that name. So like he could be very surprising, but kind of like I put in my Contender Series article, I don't say this about a lot of guys, but like it's way clear that the guy spends too much time in big glove sparring, with the way he keeps his guard. So even though he seems like he has good eyes in exchanges, Michael Morales, he gets hit with some really obvious shots early. That's not going to be good for Jay Giles, against Jay Giles. I think he can pierce in and around that guard. But if he doesn't finish him, then he leaves himself open to get finished. And with pretty much 30 fights between them, and they've only seen the scorecards 5 times between those 30. It's like 29 fights, so pretty much 30. 5 times out of 30. And you're going to give me under 2.5 at plus 155, like shit, plus 150, at least of what I got it for. I got to take that. I hate betting unders. It's like your typical fucking, MMA gambler bet, let's go unders. I'm more of an over guy, you know me. I not to be contrarian, but when you're wrong about the over, you get an exciting fight, and you're right, you make money, or you can make money and get an exciting fight. Whereas unders, you can get exciting and make money, but like I don't know, it's just when that under passes and you just it's a long boring fight. It can feel tedious sometimes. I don't know. With my luck, it's more of me speaking out of my luck here. I hate betting unders, folks. You guys know that. But this one just seems too good to be true, and I probably said it right there. But yeah, it just makes too much. It just makes too much sense in my eyes if they're going to give us that coverage. I only took a half unit shot. So half unit on that, plus 150. Half unit Stamen, plus 155. I know you can get better lines out there. I got him at Stamen at plus 161 at other house. But you know me, I don't sit there and fib lines or go with the bet. No, I'll round under, One of the few guys who rounds under. Same with the ladies too. I'll sell myself short. That way you can surprise them, Jesus, Dan, that's a real long play. Listen, no, I'm gonna go under here though. Plus money, baby. Next leg of the parlay, Jack Della Maddalena. I want to hear, what's his name? He's living the dream. Michael Chiavello. Call this guy another Australian Aussie, right? Jack Della Maddalena. Pete Rodriguez, plus 280. I actually went back to watch some of his fights. He looks like he's a pretty talented dude who could throw some hands from both stances, southpaw and orthodox. Says he's been doing jiu-jitsu from a young age, though he doesn't have any accolades or rank that he lists or is visible on his IG that I saw. Maddalena, of course, is a brown belt. It looks the part, can scramble his ass off, and a better, more technical boxer who also fights from both stances. More experienced, seems more experienced and savvy than his resume leads on. One of the few to get A+ from me from Dana White Contender Series. You usually look to fade those guys. This guy, especially in a matchup like this, it's priced accordingly. So I took him, and since Pete Rodriguez is being rushed to market at like 4-0, like all first round finishes, and this is going to be a high-paced fight between them. If it survives the second round, it's probably going to end there. If it survives the third round, I definitely see it ending there. I'm even going to shout the Master of Love, Derek Love, and as well as D Love too. Even though it's the Master of Love is who the original third round shouts go for this. I'm gonna put that juju on there as well, and give my dude D Love. He's got his own another guy D Love, Dustin Love, of course, different cat, but another good cat himself. He's got his own show, so I definitely want to shout him. Give him some love too. I'm saying that because we've been off too long. We've been shooting this machine gun too long at the target to not hit that damn bullseye, right? On these round props. And I know there's some that I've been way off on, but there's been a majority, I will say. I'm hitting right around that fucking bullseye. We are due, goddammit. So, 0.17 units round 2 plus 400, 0.17 units. So it's just 17. Small folks. On round 3, baby. Round 3 special. D-Love special. Plus 900, okay? That's what we're going to do there. So kind of like with the Barcelos, what I like to do with these parlay legs is if the parlay falls apart, at least we have little angles that we can make, if not all, a majority of the money back with just one of these things hitting, with just one of these darts that are amidst our parlay legs, right? That's kind of the way I like to layer them. I didn't do any layering for the next one, though, which is Tony Gravely, minus 250 versus Simon, brah. Oh, I'll get some Simon, brah. Oliveira, plus 200. Gravely I did not want to put him in the parlay, man. This was a result of, fights falling out, Figueiredo looking good on the scale. In case I wanted to cheat it and try to use Moreno as a parlay leg, get ballsy. No, I ended up going with Gravely. He's the kind of guy I want to look. I'll look to fade because he always looks he's going to fall apart. You know, he can get knocked out or submitted. Simon Oliveira, despite looking like Paco from Bloodsport and fighting like him, he's got more submissions than knockouts. So I don't think we got to worry about the upset knockout, which was the first upset knockout in Gravely's defense, though I believe a lot of his losses are kind of club and sub-esque. He can be hurt in there. But he comes from a Taekwondo background, which is different than Muay Thai, but I don't got to worry about the kick so much. But I say that because Taekwondo, you get to read spins pretty damn well. And if you go read my grading the winners on Oliveira, is he spins too much for my liking. And really he just spins and meanders too much, you know? Like he's really got to set it up kind of like he has to have the perfect shot, which kind of really feels very Astra Fight Team-esque if you look at like early Astra Fight Team Darren Till, fucking Till. Right, you know, and there's a lot of that in there. And you're just giving Gravely too much time to either set up and clock you with his big right hand when you spin, or change levels and take you down. Excuse me. Working at American Top Team, I got to imagine the guillotine was the focus, since this guy's like a Vorley Alves in the sense of like all his submission wins by being a Muay Thai guy is by guillotine. Gravely, for his handful of submission losses, only one is by guillotine. That was in 2018 though, but that was also by Patchy Mix, who again is a long limb guy like Oliveira, who really relies on that. So if he lets his guard down and gets a little overconfident, he could really pay for it. So he's really got to defend right away, or at least defend in the motion of his double legs and clearing those legs for Gravely. But as long as he doesn't get caught speeding there, I feel like he wins this fight any way he wants. And for that reason, I couldn't say decision, I couldn't say knockout or submission, which is why he if you are gonna play him, you throw him in a parlay for an amount you don't feel too bad if it crashes and burns, because either that or you stay the fuck away, in my opinion. It's really too hard to find an angle for this fight. The totals aren't enticing to me where they're set, so. Yeah, Gravely will be the third leg. You pair him with Hayoni at 520 and Jack at 350 is what I got him for. Plus 114. Even with the numbers, some being higher, some being lower, I feel like if you just pair those three, you can still do that for plus money, for your plus money pairing. A chalk trio there. That's what I'm on. That's what's going to be on the odds checker article. The Stamen play won't. The under will. So you got to be here for the extras, right? Next fight, Matt, we'll get through these ones quick because I didn't really research these ones because I wasn't aiming to target these ones. Frivola minus 200, Genaro Valdez plus 170. This feels like Frivola should roll. And if he's smart, he should, take it to the ground, either get it done by submission or a decision. I have wanted to play the submission, but I feel like it's going to be sneaky by decision for Frivola. And this sounds weird, but it feels straightforward. But we've seen Frivola get caught cold in first rounds, get caught cold by a Mexican regional fighter who's not supposed to be that great on paper, right? So this kind of has smacks of those similarities, and that's kind of scary. Let's see what is Frivola by decision, plus 180 inside it's really close. It's hard to tell, which is going to keep me away from this one. Plus, there's that upset special perhaps in round one. If you're betting Valdez, if you're taking the dog here, I feel like you should just take round 1 and get better odds, even though you're already getting, kicking for coverage, I suppose. But I'm just not too confident either. And part of the reason is because I heard Ray Longo on the Anakin Florian podcast, and they're always kind of shooting the shit and they're always busting Ray's balls, so they can kind of pierce the armor a bit. And I don't know how good his poker face is, but like, I don't know if Frivola's dealing with something or what, but like, and I know like, I joke, like, I feel like both Sarah and Longo on different programs have been burying Algio, going fucking Peter Yan, with the way they compliment Peter Yan. Like, man, not even they're confident in their guy. But that being said, generally they're always like, homering for their guys, of course. And between homering for your guy and having what should be a stylistically feasible matchup, and you're a favorite, Longo didn't sound like his guy was the favorite. He was just like, he sounded worried, like his guy was dealing with something. They asked him about it. It sounded like an easy question, an easy pitch, Frivola ready to go. And Longo was just like, we're going to be rooting for him. This is a real important one. Yeah. And I was just like, what the fuck is that all about? That's weird. Like, I know that's just a weird, random thing to go off of, folks. And especially since I didn't do my fucking homework on this. It sounds like I'm just leaning into this shit. But no, I would be mentioning this anyways. There's a flag there, somewhere in there. I don't know, man. Red flag for the redhead here, okay? Picks for Vola, but it's a red flag there. I'd be real curious if it plays out bad and there's a reason. There's legs to that theory, you know what I'm saying? Vanessa Demopoulos, minus 140. Silvana Gomez-Juarez. I've taken the underdog here, but she actually opened as a slight favorite. I just don't feel like there's much technique to Demopoulos from what I remember, and Juarez is pretty scrappy. And I think maybe a little bit more of a process, striking-wise. So I picked her, but I'm not playing it even though she's an underdog. I'm not confident. I didn't research it, folks. This seems like a fadeable line, but I still like Kay Hansen, minus 235. Jasmine Jasdivisius, plus 190. Yeah, I feel like Hansen should be the more stronger fighter, but it's tough because she's coming up a weight class. She's going to be shorter. Still feel like she's going to bulldozer Jasdivisius over. I don't know if she can get the sub finish. I think that's what she's going to be working toward. I'll go Kay Hansen, but I'm not too confident in any angles there. But the pick is Kay Hansen. All right. How did we do? 57, under an hour, not bad. All right, recapping. I didn't do this the last time. Sorry. Going to recap picks and plays. Top to bottom, taking Ngannou over Gane. Taking Moreno over Figgy. Taking Pereira over Fiallo. Taking Stamen over Nurmagomedov. Taking Barcelos over Henry. Taking Jay Giles over Morales. Taking De La Madalena over Rodriguez. Taking Gravely over Paco Oliveira. Taking Steamroller Frivola over Valdez. Holly Gennaro. Trying to get to Holly Gennaro. Taking Gomez Juarez over Demopoulos. Taking Hansen over Jasdivisius. Parlay Madalena, Barcelos, and Gravely for plus 114 at 1 unit. Took a shot at Stamen at plus 155 for a half a unit. Probably take a shot at Ngannou depending on how the night's going. We'll have time. We'll see where the line moves. Props. Morales got Jay Giles under 2.5 plus 150, half a unit. Sprinkled on Jack Della Madalena, round 2 plus 400.17 U. Sprinkled round 3 as well on him, plus 900.17 U. Sprinkled Barcelos by decision, plus 200.25 U. What was the other decision I may be looking at here? Possibly to play. Is it? I don't even fucking know. You got to go listen to the podcast. I probably won't do it, but yeah, with somebody. Somebody once told me the world was gonna blow me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. All right. He was looking kind of dumb with his belly full of... All right, and we're going to go on that note. Good luck on your picks and plays, folks. And always protect your neck.